Tonight, global alert, the world on edge over a new COVID variant. Flights suspended, quarantine rules return. Also, the city swarmed by pandemic protesters for a fifth straight Saturday. Matthew Guy's big election promise, no more lockdowns. A tiny Gippsland town, the centre of the search for the missing campers remains. Zones removed, the MCG and Melbourne Park set for capacity crowds. And look who's back, exclusive pictures. Dustin Martin roars onto the track at Punt Road.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor starts now.
Good evening. Australia has responded quickly to a new COVID strain, suspending flights and reintroducing quarantine for travellers from Africa. Tonight, we still don't know if it's more dangerous than others, but the variant has a name, Omicron. Worldwide, a growing list of countries are shutting international borders.
Omicron, 15th letter of the Greek alphabet, 13th variant of concern. Europe's first case in Belgium, it's in Israel, at least one Asian country too. Now Australia has shut out South Africa, where the first cases were discovered.
It is quite different to previous variants that we've been watching.
We know Omicron has mutated. The World Health Organization says it shows early signs of spreading faster, but the worldwide response is based on precaution.
What those mutations lead to in terms of clinical efficacy, vaccine efficacy, we don't know that yet.
Non-Australian citizens who have recently been in African countries where the new strain has been found
will not be able to enter Australia. These countries are South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Lesotho, Eswatini, the Seychelles, Malawi and Mozambique.
The US, parts of Europe and the Middle East making similar moves.
All air travel to these countries should be suspended. It is now important that all of us in Europe act very swiftly, decisively and united.
We are raising a red flag. We understand that we're on the verge of a state of emergency.
We don't know a lot about the variant except that it is a great concern. It seems to spread rapidly.
Australians coming home from at-risk African countries must now go into hotel quarantine. A small number who recently arrived must test and isolate for 14 days from when they left the country. In South Africa, frustration at being locked out.
The UK simply went ahead and imposed the restrictions without even engaging us.
Spooked by the news, global share markets plunged. New York's Dow Jones and London's FTSE, their biggest falls in a year.
This is a process of trying to contain the virus for these first precious weeks where we figure out what the threat is.
These passengers arriving in Melbourne today from Hong Kong, where Omicron cases were discovered. None have been found here.
We are well placed and in a vastly different position to previously.
Pfizer and Moderna are testing their vaccines against the new strain. Moderna calls Omicron's many mutations a significant potential risk that could accelerate the waning of natural and vaccine-induced immunity. Novavax is adjusting its vaccine to target Omicron. It'll be ready for testing in a few weeks, but yet to be approved in Australia.
That speed at which we could get to that next generation of vaccines is reassuring.
390,000 Australians have received a booster shot. That's about 1.5% of our population. Those with a booster booking soon are being told to keep it despite the new strain.
We have enough cases of coronavirus in our community to know that we just need to do that work to keep the numbers down.
We have one of the most recently vaccinated populations in the world.
Doctors in South Africa warn against overreacting.
We still expect the vaccines to hold well in terms of preventing severe disease, although it's still early to tell for sure.
The job now for scientists to work out what Omicron means for the next chapter of this pandemic.
And Blake, this flight ban is effective immediately.
It is, Mike. The flight ban will last for at least the next 2 weeks. Fewer than 100 people have arrived here from Southern Africa in recent weeks. There are 20 in isolation at Howard Springs in Darwin. This comes as 5 contracts for quarantine hotels in Victoria, including the Novotel here at South Wharf, end next week. If more strains keep appearing, requiring regular bursts of quarantine, there'll be some demand for that dedicated facility at Mickleham, due to be finished next year. Mike?
Blake Johnson, thank you. Victoria's new infections are down slightly on yesterday, with the state recording 1,252 new cases and 5 deaths. The number of people in hospital with coronavirus continues to drop. Today it's 299 people. That's under 300 for the first time since late September. Our high vaccine coverage is relieving the pressure on our health system. Currently, 93.2% of Victorians have had 1 dose and 90.5% have had 2 shots. It's almost become a Saturday ritual. Protesters clogging Melbourne's streets, hitting out at vaccine mandates and the pandemic bill. The controversial legislation is set to be debated this week.
For the 5th Saturday in a row, our city streets swamped.
This is genocide, this is a bioweapon.
The government's controversial pandemic bill and vaccine mandates front and centre.
We should be able to live with freedom the way we always have.
It's just disgusting. I can't believe I haven't got a choice here.
At times a party atmosphere with drums and DJs. Among the crowd, crossbencher Catherine Cumming.
Everyone who is not vaccinated needs to go back to work right now, and that's why they're here.
During a march that looped part of the city, tram stops became vantage points as Christmas shoppers and buskers in the Bourke Street Mall were outnumbered. And on the steps of Parliament, where yesterday police played cricket with protesters, today a familiar face.
Get rid of the pandemic bill, and hopefully we can get rid of Dan Andrews as well.
The focus of their anger, the pandemic bill, is set to be debated in the upper house from Tuesday, when another large group of protesters is expected on the steps of Parliament House.
You can talk about sack Dan Andrews, but it should be arrest Dan Andrews.
The Premier, the clear target, with a common theme, a historical comparison judging his push for pandemic powers.
It's our friend from Germany, our friend from North Korea and our friend from Victoria.
Save our children! Save our children!
I've got a 12-year-old that's looking at not being able to play community sport over a mandate that's made to make parents feel guilty.
Who should be running the state?
Not Dan Andrews.
Who though?
Oh, I don't know, but not Dan Andrews.
Paul Dowsley joins us live now. And Paul, police have done something new with today's protest.
Estimating crowd numbers, Mike, for large protests like this is a notoriously imprecise science. No one can ever agree on a number, and police for some time haven't released estimates until today. And they say there were around 20,000 protesters. Some of those there that I spoke with today, the protesters, said that was well into the hundreds of thousands. But one number they can all agree on, Mike, is that there were no arrests.
Paul Dowsley, thank you. And the hunt is on for protesters who targeted police at demonstrations in September. This man is accused of firing a flare towards officers in Richmond, while this demonstrator allegedly launched a firework on the Westgate Bridge. These two are wanted after several police cars were damaged in Carlton. And there's a new probe into damage caused during the CFMEU protests. Anyone who knows any of these men should contact police. Opposition leader Matthew Guy has promised if he's elected Premier, Victoria will have no more lockdowns. He made the bold pledge at a rally on the Coalition Faithful to mark 1 year until the next state election.
1 year to the election, a campaign-style launch with family and standing ovations. A slogan and a constant theme.
Labor's blanket statewide lockdowns.
The world's most locked down state.
Extreme COVID restrictions.
With this bold promise.
A very clear commitment to Victorians for the next election. No ifs, no buts, no more lockdowns.
But there is an if and a but. There could be a targeted lockdown if approved by National Cabinet.
Well, under very, very limited circumstance, and I don't think we'll get to that circumstance, to be frank.
So the government and the opposition have made the same promise.
We're not having statewide lockdowns, we're not having citywide lockdowns.
This government will do anything they can to bring in statewide lockdowns. Who would believe them?
He dismissed the threat of the new Omicron variant.
Oh, you know what? We're going to get variants of everything. Every flu strain every year is different. We have to learn to live with this. We're going to have an Andean variant, a Uruguayan variant, a Cordoba variant. We're going to get all variants for the next couple of years.
And Mr Guy reiterated his promise to tear up any pandemic legislation passed next week, but conceded if elected he will need his own version of the bill. There are reports disgraced MP Tim Smith has moved to London and will quit Parliament soon, leaving his leader facing a tricky by-election next year.
I'm not going to break a confidence, but I'll say this, Nick, he's a loyal Liberal, and he'll always be so.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
A tiny town in remote East Gippsland is now the focus of Australia's biggest murder investigation. Dargo is set to be inundated as a huge police search team comes together to try to solve the mystery surrounding 2 missing campers.
Beyond this police tape is remote bushland investigators believe could lead them to the remains of campers Carol Clay and Russell Hill. While they've zeroed in on one area of the Great Alpine region, it's now a big task for police combing through the forest that's home to old cemeteries and mining relics.
It's pretty hard going walking through there, unless you find an old 4-foot wide walking track.
It's sort of open terrain, there was heaps of campers, then everyone sort of got told to sort of pull out, so it's a bit quieter today.
7 News understands it was the marathon questioning of accused murderer and Jetstar captain Greg Lynn that led detectives to Grant Historic Area, nearly 30 kilometres from the burnt-out Wonnangatta campsite where the campers last made contact. The only path between the 2 locations is a windy stretch of road that's well off the beaten track. A dark blue Nissan Patrol was captured leaving Wonnangatta on the night Russell Hill and Carol Clay were allegedly killed. The path it took has not been revealed. Dargo is one of Victoria's most remote communities with a population of 75 people, but that number is set to surge this weekend when huge search teams, including forensic police and missing persons detectives, arrive in the town closest to the search zone.
I just hope they can find them and sort of get a bit of closure for the families. Just put an end to it all.
Jetstar pilot Greg Lynn is behind bars in the Melbourne Remand Centre after facing court via video link yesterday. He's charged with 2 counts of murder. Now police are focused on finding a possible burial site after 20 months of mystery surrounding the camper's disappearance. The new search is expected to begin on Monday. Hope Wilson, 7 News.
Australian troops and police officers have arrived in the Solomon Islands as rioting continues across the capital. The peacekeepers have joined local police on the streets in an attempt to restore order and protect critical infrastructure.
The intention is that this is a mission lasting weeks, not months. We're there under the invitation of the Solomon Islands government.
3 people have died in the unrest. A curfew and lockdown is in place. 4 children have been farewelled in an emotional burial service at Flinders Memorial Park Cemetery in Lara. Mourners massed together to support the heartbroken parents and their 8-year-old son who tried desperately to save the siblings from the horror house fire in Werribee last weekend. The tragic inferno has touched the community and led to a flood of donations to a GoFundMe page. Melbourne is the only major city in Australia defying a national surge in rental prices. New data seen by 7 News shows millions of Australians are paying more for rent now than ever before.
34-year-old Matt Pender is a single dad raising 3 kids.
Yeah, it all gets a bit much. The kids are good, they make it easy.
But life's about to get much more difficult. He's being evicted and can't afford another place to live.
Pressure's pretty, it gets to me, but you can just hope for the best, really.
Figures seen by 7 News show rents rising through the roof across the country. In Matt's suburb of Nowra, rents have increased by $2,800 in just 1 year.
We've had a health crisis with COVID. Now it's been replaced by a housing crisis.
Melbourne is the only city where rent has actually gone down, but it's not the same in nearby Ocean Grove, up $3,600.
We're talking about real families and real people whose incomes cannot keep up.
This is the biggest bill that millions of Aussies pay every week.
Federal Labor says these figures should be a wake-up call for the government, framing cost of living pressures as a key election issue. Shadow Housing Minister Jason Clare wants the government to make more land available to build on.
This should be on the agenda of National Cabinet. If we win the next election, we'll do that.
Let's just wait and see. Hopefully this gets out and we can get some more houses built for us single parents.
For now, Matt and his kids will spend Christmas looking for a place to live. Jennifer Beshwati, 7 News.
The woman at the centre of the Tim Payne sexting scandal has filed a lawsuit against Cricket Tasmania in the federal court. According to the Herald Sun, the woman claims she complained about sexual harassment prior to resigning from her job. The complaint is not related to Payne. Plans for capacity crowds at the Boxing Day Test and Australian Open could need to be reviewed if the new Omicron variant takes off. The MCC has submitted an updated COVID-safe plan, pitching to remove limits on movement around the stadium.
Zipping Classic Day at Caulfield. 10,000 racegoers on track. No zones, no masks, no limitations.
No, not worried at all. I've had the double jab.
We know how to handle ourselves now. I think, if you've done the right thing, you double back, so it's sort of time to get back to enjoying life.
And if the new COVID variant doesn't put the brakes on,
I think it's a little preemptive to understand exactly what is occurring.
The MCG's new COVID-safe plan is expected to allow for 100,000 fans to watch the Aussies take on England.
Where else would you want to be on Boxing Day?
Last year, the ground was divided up into 5 zones. This year, patrons will be free to move around. However, food and beverage outlets will remain cashless, and experts say a final decision on masks will need to be made closer to the event.
You might ask people to wear masks, particularly on entering and exiting grounds.
A crowd crush at the Amy Park gates contributed to this year's virus spread, while the last big crowd at the G, a Blues Cats clash in July, became a super spreading event. Thanks to some of the highest vaccination rates in the world, that's changed for now, but may still rely on keeping new strains out.
It's a matter of trying to keep our surveillance up, so that we're very aware of where any variants are that we're worried about.
And after the cricket, plans are full steam ahead for January's Australian Open. Tennis fans also set to have freedom to roam around the Melbourne Park precinct. Jacqueline Felgate, 7 News.
Fingers crossed. And Jackie joins us now. And Jack, Dusty Martin has put the AFL world on notice. Opposition clubs, beware.
You will love this one, Mike. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Dusty is back and ready to roar in season 2022. 7 News was there as the Tigers superstar ramped up his comeback ahead of a huge pre-season. We'll have all the exclusive details shortly. Plus, Max Gawn reveals the gruelling off-season schedule designed to keep the Demons at the top.
Everyone's looking real rock hard fit. You're expected to run PBs in the first sort of 2 weeks.
Also, Glenn Boss bears all in a farewell that didn't go to plan. Captain Cummins clocks on for his first day in charge as an England spearhead, gets some running repairs. And Mike, the first shot has been fired by the tourists ahead of the Ashes. More to come.
Of course it has. Thanks, Jack. Fake tradies are targeting vulnerable Victorians. Up next, what to watch out for if you get a knock at the door. Also, a workplace tragedy in Melbourne southeast. Broadway mourns the passing of a legend. The first pieces of a 67-million-year-old jigsaw puzzle arrive in Melbourne. And later, why winning a country cup is better than a $6 million prize. A man has died after a concrete road barrier fell from a flatbed truck. It happened at a depot at Narnagoon in Melbourne southeast. Police are preparing a report for the coroner and WorkSafe is also investigating. Victorians have been ripped off hundreds of thousands of dollars, falling victim to so-called fake tradies. With an increasing amount of homeowners turning to online apps to get odd jobs done quickly, the risk of being ripped off is very real.
For Newport resident Doug and dozens of other Victorians, a simple repair job has become an ordeal.
This guy came round who seemed okay at the time.
Doug found the tradesman using a popular smartphone app. He quoted $400, but then asked to be paid directly into his bank account to buy materials.
I just wanted the job done, basically, and I thought I'd pay him through that, and so I did. And then he didn't come back.
It's a warning sign Doug and so many others have missed.
They take the money off people and then they disappear.
In the past financial year, more than 70% of fake tradie cases reported to Consumer Affairs Victoria have seen customers lose money. The total bill, more than $660,000. And it's not just online. People are falling into the fake tradie trap simply by answering a knock at the door.
Advertising that they can do things like fix your driveway, lop trees, fix a roof. That's a very common problem.
If you're looking for a tradie, make sure you check for reviews, get their full name and registration or licence details, and if you run into trouble, you can call Victoria's dedicated fake tradie hotline. Matt Thompson, 7 News.
Police have retrieved more potential evidence in their search for the remains of William Tyrrell, today marking 2 spots in the bush off Cobb & Co Road at Kendall and bagging what appeared to be a length of thread. It's at least the 15th scrap of material found so far. Every piece is being forensically examined to see if it's relevant to the case. There are global tributes tonight for one of Broadway's most praised writers who brought shows such as West Side Story and Sweeney Todd to life. Stephen Sondheim, widely credited with reshaping musical theatre in the second half of the 20th century, has died aged 91.
Stephen Sondheim turns up to the play that cemented his genius
Stephen,
51 years earlier.
the cast of Company dedicate this performance to you.
Taught by a genius, friend and lyricist Oscar Hammerstein II, he pressed a 25-year-old Sondheim to write the lyrics for West Side Story.
Here comes the chest like a bat out of hell. Someone gets in our way, someone don't feel so well.
In the 60s, Sondheim took to writing both music and lyrics. This 70s hit recorded hundreds of times, including
Send in the Clowns
by Frank Sinatra. Some saw his music as too intricate and unhummable. Others praised it as intelligent and evocative, and his subjects as wonderfully unusual.
I want you so.
Like his masterpiece Sweeney Todd, a homicidal barber whose customers finish up as filling in meat pies.
A demon barber of Beach Street.
A succession of awards.
Stephen reinvented the American musical,
including America's highest civilian honour, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He lived to 91. In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
A near-perfect fossil of a 67-million-year-old dinosaur has landed in Melbourne. It's hoped the Triceratops, named Horridus, will become the city's newest attraction and draw more tourists back to the museum.
Unboxing the first piece of a prehistoric jigsaw puzzle.
So that's Triceratops' beak. So things look like they're in good shape.
These are just a few of the 266 bones belonging to one of the most significant dinosaurs ever unearthed.
To have a skeleton that is 85% complete is something vanishingly rare.
The 67-million-year-old Triceratops was discovered in Montana 7 years ago. The Melbourne Museum quickly snapped it up for $3 million.
No museum in Australia, in Australasia, in this region has ever had a dinosaur fossil of this completeness and global significance. The fact that we have it here means that we can ask questions about the biology, the life history, the evolution of Triceratops.
After a delicate mission transporting Horridus from North America, curators are now painstakingly scanning each bone.
Ribs are tricky to 3D scan because they're so skinny.
To help with the daunting task of rebuilding the fragile fossil, so Melburnians can finally meet our newest resident.
A stunning coup for Melbourne. This is going to be a complete magnet for scientists, for paleontologists, for tourists, for children.
Horridus will go on display early next year. Rachel Ward, 7 News.
Estelle Greeping joins us now, and thankfully, Estelle, we've put the cold weather behind us at last.
Well, Mike, we really couldn't complain about today's conditions as we had much more spring-like weather today. Frankston stayed dry and warm under blue skies, and this is what it looked like in Healesville, where it reached 20 degrees. Temperatures across our suburbs were similar, 21 in Moorabbin and 20 in Hastings. We're still in the high teens at the moment. Now, tonight will stay warm until sundown. It'll still be 17 degrees at 7 p.m, and the sun will stick around tomorrow as well. Mike will have the full forecast after sport.
We're all happy to hear that. Thanks, Estelle. Hundreds of buyers and sellers have joined the spring auction rush. Coming up, more than 2,000 properties go under the hammer. Full details. Also, the latest on a mum's fight to reunite with her 3-year-old daughter stuck across the Tasman. The moment a Russian module arrived at the International Space Station. And celebrating 100 years of Phillip Island's world-famous Penguin Parade. The rush to secure a pre-Christmas sale has seen a surge in auctions, with more than 2,000 scheduled this weekend. It marks the state's biggest ever auction weekend.
A super Saturday in Melbourne's east.
We've sold! Congratulations!
This 3-bedroom Vermont home selling for more than $1.5 million, 135 bids later.
One, are you all done? Are you all silent? No, 2, 3.
Very pleased, very happy. Dad built the house years ago.
The well-sought-after corner block, one of 2,040 properties scheduled to go to auction this week. Almost half are in a 10 to 20 kilometre radius from the CBD.
This is where all the infrastructure is, all the schools and so forth. And a lot of people have grown up here, so they know the area, so they stay close by.
Reservoir, the hottest suburb, 30 auctions there, including this 3-bedroom unit on Aberdeen Street, selling for $685,000.
Rapid fire auction and sold 115,000 above reserve.
This auction record will be short-lived. Next weekend is expected to be even bigger, with vendors eager to make the most of the booming market before Christmas.
Next week's just under 2,100 auctions. They want to enjoy Christmas knowing where they're going in the new year. The kids can start the school in the new year, so it's a perfect time to buy and to sell.
Sarah Jones, 7 News.
And Sarah Jones joins us now, and today's clearance rates are just in from the REIV.
Mike, 1,082 auctions have been reported this week with a clearance rate of 75%. 807 properties sold, while 275 were passed in. Mike?
Sarah, thank you. There's been small progress in the case of a Queensland mother whose 3-year-old daughter has been stuck in New Zealand for months. The family's urging Canberra to help it cut through red tape.
She needs exemptions, guidance, but most importantly, Aaliyah Williams needs her little girl back home.
I'm thankful that my family are looking after her, like she's in really good hands, but yeah, I'm regretful. I wish I never sent her so she wasn't stuck for so long.
3-year-old Aria has been stranded in New Zealand since June. Getting her back is a complex web of government red tape. This morning, Aaliyah hadn't heard from DFAT about help navigating the process. After inquiries from 7 News this afternoon, she received a call.
I had a lady from the Department of Affairs office contact me. We've made more progress than I have in the last 4 months to try and get her home.
Aaliyah needs a quarantine exemption from New Zealand and hardship funding because of the crippling costs to bring Aria home in a pandemic. But she's worried she won't be eligible because while her daughter is an Australian citizen, she isn't.
There needs to be a lot more help to understand what the process is to get it all done. And
Aaliyah and Aria's situation isn't the first of its kind, nor is it likely to be the last. In July, there were more than 400 Australian children registered with the government as stranded overseas.
Rosanna Kingson, 7 News.
More than 100 firefighters have battled a giant inferno in Los Angeles, the second fire to hit this building in a week. At least 2 textile businesses were destroyed, with the roof of the building caving in. A Russian cargo craft has made it to the International Space Station after a 2-day voyage. The module connected to the ISS with 700 kilograms of goods. NASA described it as flawless docking. Phillip Island's famous penguins are celebrating an important milestone. Their parade at Summerland Beach has now been enjoyed by audiences for 100 years.
When these little penguins first became an attraction, TV was still in black and white.
In the sunny climate of Phillip Island, we find Antarctic creatures.
And audiences were so small, they could get up close and personal.
We've gone from really small groups lying on the beach to really large groups viewing on the beach. People just look, observe and enjoy.
But 100 years later, their colony has swelled, along with their fans. Phillip Island's most famous residents, now a streaming sensation with 25 million viewers.
Oh, there's one little stranded one back there.
The birds have always been a must-see for 86-year-old Anne Davey. She first watched the penguins waddle up the beach in 1946.
Just magic, those little penguins
waddling up the beach. I never tire of seeing them and the wonder of it.
The state government has helped fund extensive conservation work and an updated visitor centre, making sure the penguins will be entertaining Victorians for decades to come.
It's really special, I guess, the sentiment attached, and knowing one day you can take your own kids and keep the tradition going.
Estelle Grapink, 7 News.
Thousands of Melburnians scrape the plate clean with the city's dining rebate scheme all out of cash. Details next. Big bidders, hundreds of classic cars on the auction block right now. And the priceless racing prize worth so much more than $6 million. The midweek Melbourne Money Dining Scheme will end on Tuesday. More than 114,000 claims have been made since the $5 million program began in the middle of this month. Approved claims have topped $3.8 million, meaning more than $12 million has been spent in city restaurants, cafes and bars. 92% of diners say the scheme was one of the reasons they visited the city, with 40% saying they also went shopping. A marathon auction of classic cars is on right now, giving enthusiasts a rare chance to own a piece of history. Luxury bidders are bidding big as demand for collectibles soars during the pandemic.
Revved up and ready to break records. Australia's largest classic car auction kicking off.
Here they are at 15,000 a bid. 15,000 a bid and a buy,
A 12-hour event to secure a piece of motoring history. Buyers dialing in from around the country.
So here we have the SLR 5000 Tribute, which is in hot demand, and the Tirana, both in very striking colours. Since the closure in 2017, Holdens have been the hot ticket to get your hands on.
With hundreds of rare classics on offer.
I hold the bid on that one, I hold the bid on this one, so I'll probably end up leaving here with 2 cars today.
Some models are expected to fetch 6 figures.
You don't see any of these on the streets.
Auctioneers say the demand for collectible cars is catapulting.
With the COVID and all the rest of it, it's an opportunity to put something away and have a bit of a tinker with it in the garage.
An expensive hobby seeing many slip into the driver's seat. Georgia Costi, 7 News.
Racing's Everest is worth $6 million, but for high-profile owner Rod Lyons, the Jericho Cup means so much more. Tomorrow's annual race in Warrnambool honours the soldiers who died in World War I, including his great-uncle.
Rod Lyons at the peak of the racing world, managing owner of Nature Strip, winner of the $6 million Everest.
Nature Strip clings on it. He's king of the mountain this time.
But his career highlight, victory in the 2019 Jericho Cup, a World War I memorial race with a blaze.
The way I felt, the way I welled up with emotion, I was uncontrollable. I was lost for words and couldn't speak. It just meant so much to me.
That's because he dedicated it to his great-uncle William Tice, who at 16 lied about his age to fight in France, wounded, shell-shocked, then killed by a sniper. His ghost may be heard in this trophy.
It'll never be forgotten. And now my grandkids now know all about him, and they'll continue to remember him and thank him as well.
Tomorrow at Warrnambool, Rod has He Be Right, one of the favourites for this year's Jericho Cup. The race named after a famous light horseman event in the Palestinian desert in 1918. Again, he'll honour William.
It was just an enormous pride, a sense of thank you, William. You know, I'm thinking of you here.
Rod hopes to race Nature Strip at England's Royal Ascot next year.
It's been a dream of mine from the moment we realised Nature Strip was really up there as an A-grade sprinter, so it would be a terrific thrill.
Then he'll visit his great-uncle's grave in France.
Just say thank you to him for what he's done for me, my family, and for all of us.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
A lovely story. Sport is next with Jackie Felgate and Jack. Opposition teams beware. Dusty Martin is back tearing up Tigerland. I love it.
He is, Mike. Yes, I bet you do. 7 News was there as a trimmed-down Tigers superstar took his comeback to the next level. We'll have all the exclusive details next. Last, we go one-on-one with Max Gawn, who reveals Melbourne's gut-busting plan to replace an off-field weapon. The big name Aussie star facing the chopping block as the old enemy fires a warning shot ahead of the first test. And the Wiggles fail to wake up the Matildas as a golden chance goes begging. Welcome back. Australia's new Test captain admits holding the highest office in the land behind the Prime Minister still hasn't sunk in. As Pat Cummins leads the side for the first time, England's first shot of this Ashes campaign has been fired.
At the home of the Gold Coast Suns, a new dawn for Australian cricket. Pat Cummins' first session as Test captain, a welcome distraction.
Yeah, forget how many people have your phone number. Got hundreds of messages, all really nice. It's just a great way to start. I feel like I've got a lot of support behind me.
Still in their quarantine bubble, and after days of rain, 3 hours in the middle, invaluable.
We're able to simulate match intensity pretty well. We had a big bowl, us bowlers, kind of two big spells. If the test match was in the next couple of days, we'll be ready to go.
The same can't be said for England. An hour up the road at the Gabba, their 3-day match washed out. Jimmy Anderson appeared ginger, and this snippet from a BBC Ashes doco dropped from fellow quick Mark Wood.
You know, to come up against this baggy green thing that they keep talking about, we'll be having my baggy blues on. I'd love to, stick one up them.
The first fighting words of the tour, but don't expect any from those normally responsible.
I'd probably give him a cuddle, to be honest.
For the Barmy Army, Tim Payne's now off limits.
We've decided to completely retire the Tim Payne song. We have fun, and I've said this week a lot that banter's fine, abuse isn't, mental health is absolutely a very prominent issue at the moment.
And it mightn't be their only last-minute change.
If we're playing the first test tomorrow, Jai Richardson will be in the test team. So it'll be Cummins, Hazelwood, Lyon and Richardson. I want to play someone who's in form.
Ben Davis, 7 News.
Richmond's Dustin Martin has stepped up his return, with 7 News capturing exclusive vision of the trimmed-down superstar back running at Tigerland. Mitch Cleary has the story. Hello, Mitch. This is going to get Tigers fans very excited.
Jackie, Dustin Martin is primed for 2022. This is the first time we've seen the triple Norm Smith medalist since losing 10 kilos and being placed on a fruit diet after his gruesome kidney injury in July. The 30-year-old noticeably trimmer after ramping up his fitness with indoor sessions over the last 4 weeks, with a view to returning to light training next month, even lacing up the boots today for some ball skills. The Tigers telling us he will return to full training in January, ahead of what is expected to spell more midfield minutes as the Tigers strive to get back to finals. Meantime, Premiership captain Max Gawn has delivered an ominous warning as the Demons prepare to reunite with their fans. Alongside some of footy's biggest names, Max Gawn spearheading a 24-hour walk for men's health.
Leading the guys to the G and show them around the G, and then walk back to Albert Park, and then they continue on for 18 more hours where I get to rest up at home.
The Good Blokes Society eyeing $100,000. The Premiership skipper back next Sunday to take the cup to the fans.
The joy I got out of showing it to one person, I can only imagine what I'm going to feel in there when we can show the cup to the 50,000 Melbourne fans who have been waiting.
On field, Gawn's Demons could become the first flag team ever to field the same lineup the year after a grand final triumph.
I feel like we're one of the only teams to be able to sign every one of our Premiership players up again. There's a lot of love and a lot of people wanting to stay, and most likely, because Track got 7 years at $40 million, most likely everyone's taken a piece of the pie as well.
Off field, they've lost their most important weapon, fitness guru Darren Burgess, replaced by understudy Selwyn Griffith.
He's given us a rock hard program. I'll give you the hot tip. Like Track, yeah, he was out 2 weeks after the granny, but so was the rest of the list. It was when our program started. Yeah, we've run a lot more. I think at this stage, if you put Burjo and Selwyn together, I think we're a couple Ks in front.
2021, a year to remember after welcoming son George, sparking a hot debate at home.
Jess says it's obviously the boy, but she didn't play in a premiership, to be fair, so I reckon they're going to about 50-50. Although the boy's making me smile more and more as every day goes on, so I think it's starting to win.
Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
Great shot. He might not have won his final race in the saddle, but retiring jockey Glenn Boss has gone out in style. The 52-year-old jumped aboard favourite Spanish Mission in the Zipping Classic, only to have a fairy tale farewell spoiled by the Michael Moroney trained sound. Always the entertainer, Boss will be remembered as one of our greatest ever jockeys.
The result was not going to define my career. Just being here today and being in front of this Melbourne crowd and, yeah, I have my family here. It's been a wonderful journey.
He's been great. And before heading off into retirement, Boss made sure a few punters at Caulfield didn't walk away empty-handed. Sam Kerr and the Matildas were no match for the might of Team USA in a record-breaking clash that had just about everything. The Wiggles provided the pre-game entertainment, performing the national anthem. And the US took the lead faster than you could say hot potato.
And the worst possible start, 24 seconds on the clock and a goal for the US.
I didn't write that joke. The Aussies failed to take advantage of several chances in the first half and eventually went down 3-0 in front of a record crowd of more than 36,000. Western United is on the board this A-League season after a 1-0 win over Perth Glory.
Oh, it's sneaked in, has it? Yes! Dylan Wenzel-Hall's maybe got the final touch. Connor Payne gets the plaudits. And finally the breakthrough arrives.
Connor Payne just kept the ball inside the touchline. United takes on Melbourne City next Saturday night. And golf's biggest grudge match has been taken to a new level. Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka went head-to-head in Las Vegas. DeChambeau had a gift for his rival on the first tee.
Thanksgiving and so I got some Brooks Koepka cupcakes for everyone in the crowd. And if Brooks wants the last one, he can have it. Good luck today, man. Let's have some fun. All right, cupcake olive branch.
But Koepka did have the last laugh, winning the 12-hole match play event 4 and 3. And a sight for sore eyes for you, Dustin Martin there. Looking
Made
good.
my day. Thanks, Jack.
Cheers.
Estelle is next with the forecast. Estelle, we've got more of this sunshine on the way.
Well, Mike, it will stay warmer for a little while, but showers aren't too far away. I'll have the details next. Hello again. It's been a very pleasant day in Melbourne today. In the city, we reached a top of 21 degrees and it felt lovely out there in the sunshine, and it's still warm out there now. We got a proper taste of spring in South Bank where there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and it was even warmer around the northeastern ranges where temperatures were up to 10 degrees higher than average. On the satellite, and two systems over Tasmania are joining together to maintain an east to southeasterly airstream. This week, the high pressure system will move southeast, allowing a trough to develop over our west. Around the nation, and Sydney has a few showers incoming before reaching 22. Brisbane's partly cloudy, a top of 26. To Victoria, and it will be partly cloudy in the east with isolated morning showers around the Gippsland ranges, but elsewhere it will be dry and sunny. Closer in, and there could be fog around the hills in the early morning, but after that we should get plenty of sunshine. So another lovely Melbourne day. In the city, from a low of 10, we'll reach a top of 23, and it's another dry day with no rain in sight. To the 7-day outlook, and we'll start the week on a sunny 26 degrees, but it only gets hotter as the days go on and we creep closer to summer. That means we jump on Tuesday to 29 and 31 on Wednesday. But while those days should be pretty dry, showers start to return by Thursday. We can expect up to 15 millimetres in the city, along with a thunderstorm. And when it's not raining, it should be humid, a top of 29. But the temperature drops by more than 10 degrees as we head into the weekend. We'll only reach 18 degrees on Friday, so much cooler than the middle of the week. So by Saturday, we're looking partly cloudy and just 19, a little milder than today. But tomorrow we'll start with a low of 10 degrees before climbing to a top of 23. Another dry, sunny day to round out our weekend. Mike?
It only took to the end of November. Thanks, Estelle.
30 degrees.
And that's 7 News for this Saturday. We'll have updates throughout the evening. For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.